Welcome back to another episode of Boom or Bust, your home for NFL Draft Talk. I'm your host, Terry. Today, doing a draft recap for the AFC East. Yes, draft is over. Time to get to it. Interesting division where you have four teams, or all four teams, I should say, were being rumored and discussed to be linked to quarterbacks throughout the various points of the draft. And then kind of seeing how it all shook out was kind of interesting. But let's kick it off. Well, sorry, before I go through that, let me just say that, reminder, I'm not doing grades. Don't like to give grades before people play. Also, I don't know everybody's team situation with roster and free agents and all that. I keep track of kind of the main stuff, but I don't have intimate knowledge. So I'm trying to stick more about the prospects and not more about the fit. So please don't hold that against me if I don't know your team's roster. All right, now with that being said, let's kick it off with Buffalo. And Buffalo, this whole draft, it all kind of begins and ends in the first round where you end up getting two first round guys. Now Buffalo has had two first round picks this entire time, but through a couple trades, you ended up first going to 12 where you thought a quarterback might be. Then during the draft, seeing things shake out, the Buffalo Bills went up to 7 to get their quarterback, and that's Josh Allen. So there's different reports on who liked who and how many quarterbacks each team liked, but you gotta believe Buffalo had an eye on at least 3 of the guys. And so going up to get Josh Allen over Josh Rosen, I think makes sense just because the weather and the big arm potential. I think it makes a nice connection to Buffalo as far as the type of weather you have to face there when it gets to those colder months. But also there's a lot of potential there, and I think any team would be real enticed by what Josh Allen could become if you could get him in the fold and really get his mechanics down. So Josh Allen, of course, that's going to be the one everybody watches to see. I still think A.J. McCarron is very undervalued and appreciated. He didn't have a chance yet to show what he can do in a full-time role. And it's like people grade the unknown as a bad grade, and that's not the case. You got to give him a chance and then see what he can do. So I've always liked A.J. since college. So I think he'll be decent enough to let Josh Allen kind of learn behind him. But if McCarron doesn't look good early, I think there'll be a quick call for Josh Allen. But at 16, another trade up. So the Bills trade up twice. You get Tremaine Edmonds, which at that point I thought Buffalo would end up with Billy Price or someone on the interior, to help continue to rebuild that line. But when Tremaine Edmonds, and I heard the Bills GM say this, when you got a guy like that on the board, plans change, and I gotta commend him because I thought he's a top 10 player. It's crazy to see him fall that far, and he gives you tremendous ability and potential on both the inside and outside. And the one guy I keep bringing people back to is Dante Hightower for the Patriots, a guy that plays thumper linebacker, but in a lot of situations you get him on the edge, and he's one of the more productive blitzing linebackers. I think Tremaine Edmonds has all the tools to end up being that. And then of course he's 19, so people are talking about how much better he can get and how long you get to have him and all that good stuff. But I will say between Allen and Tremaine, you got guys with incredible ceilings, but getting to that ceiling is going to be the hard work. Harrison Phillips, I think is more opposite. This is a guy that comes in with good intangibles, really good characteristics. I think there's some technique he can clean up, in the run game, but overall a good guy, hard worker. I think getting, him in the locker room with Kyle Williams is going to remind you of Kyle Williams, and hopefully he gets to sit behind Kyle and learn and get better, because I think, he's going to be like one of those, real top-notch leaders in the locker room for years to come. And then the next 2 picks, you get 2 guys from the Senior Bowl that I watched a little bit. And most of this draft actually was in the Senior Bowl. So you get 2 guys. Neal was a safety. Some people think he could be a corner combo. All I say is he's real feisty, and he's very confident, and he plays fast. So that's an interesting pick. Teron Johnson, Weber State. Smaller school, but again, held his own, like I said, the Senior Bowl. Now, Wyatt Teller in the 5th is a guy that I'm really excited about. A guy that I had good grades on. Now, in the interior line is always something that's a lower value pick, but also with the lack of talent this year and the high amount of interior talent, I think you saw some guys get really pushed down in the interior, and Teller's one of them. Some people said they had issues with his attitude on the field, but I didn't see it. I saw a mean guy, saw a guy that liked to finish blocks and will work hard and has tremendous upside and mobility, for a guy his size. So, real excited about Teller. I think he's going to challenge early on. Then Ricky Proson got drafted in the 7th round. So, moving on to the Miami Dolphins, where the Dolphins, we heard like the week of the draft, we're going to stay put and not chase a quarterback, and that's what they did. A lot of people with the departure of Ndamukong Suh, a lot of people expected Vita Vea or someone like that to be the pick, someone to get the D-line solidified again. But Fitzpatrick ended up in the board when you got on it. I kind of felt like Fitzpatrick was going to drop out of the top 10 leading up to the draft. But you Dolphins got to be happy to get him. It's still a question mark of what you do with him. But the thing is, there's a lot of things you can try him at and probably do pretty well with. So he just immediately adds flexibility to the defense. He doesn't add like a force. He doesn't add like a presence in the run game or anything, but he adds flexibility to the formations you can do. Then Gesicki in the 2nd round, a guy that not many people are surprised to see go that early because someone want to take a swing on that athleticism. A volleyball player, guy that can run, that can jump, former basketball player as well. Blew up the combine. I think he'll be an interesting pick. He's not a blocker, and he's probably out of these tight ends did the most blocking, or one of the guys that did the most blocking in college, but he just was not good at it. He's not built for it. So it'll be interesting to see what Miami kind of does. I think he's going to be a big time play action tight end that can really get down the seam and win 50-50 balls. Then Jerome Baker, one of my favorite players in the draft. It'll be interesting. I think his attitude, and his demeanor isn't quite what people might want, especially from a linebacker, but I think it's all there. I think he has super quick hands and a really good natural ability to dip under and get around blocks. For a guy that's built on speed, he doesn't get tangled up in blocks too much. And also he's got tremendous coverage ability. You're talking about a linebacker built like a safety that covered receivers in the slot. And so you're talking about Minka, one of the ultimate slot nickel, dime type players, and Jerome Baker, a linebacker who could also play the nickel. It's going to be super interesting to see when those two get on the field together, how will they use them and how flexible this defense is going to be. Durham Spite out of Notre Dame, another guy that did pretty good Senior Bowl. He's a run blocking tight end, but you saw at the Senior Bowl that he showed to be a nice release safety valve and that he could do pretty good things. I think like most tight ends, I mean, with the frame you got, it's not too hard to make yourself an available target. But with Smythe and Gesicki, it seems like they're going in a different direction with their receiving guys. Then you get Kalen Ballage, a guy who I thought would go a lot earlier, physical freak. Bigger back, got some stride that could, pull away. Definitely a tool in the catching game. So interesting. I think, he could challenge to be the number one guy. I know you got Keon Drake there, who is definitely one of the better receiving threats, but I think Ballage can challenge early on to, become a leader. And if not the leading back, I definitely think he gives you some special teams ability. Moving on to the Patriots. So, Patriots trade central. I mean, not just the trades they did, but the trades that we heard they might have done. All over the place. Who knows? We'll see. But looking at who they actually landed with, you got two Bulldogs up front where you get Isaiah Wynn. Interesting enough, Patriots turned in the card with tackle on there. Now, we know the Patriots, they cross-train, they move things around, and they aren't scared to put undersized guys. Now, I'll tell you, even though they're not scared to do those things, Sebastian Vollmer and Nate Solder for so long, you had two of them bigger tackle guys there. And so Marcus Cannon hasn't been terrible coming in, when Vollmer left. And so I think they can do it with the smaller tackles and undersized guys. But I still think you got maximum value with Wynn at guard, because his quickness is something that, really is rare on the interior. So interesting to see what they do with him, but a really highly touted prospect, definitely a Patriot pick. Sony Michel wouldn't have done it in the first. I just don't with running backs. And then on top of that, people are talking about the medical history and the combine checks coming back, and some people being scared off about it. But he ends up in the first round to the Patriots, a team that will take a chance on that. Now, I don't think they've ever drafted a high quality running back, or like a high, a high quality prospect like this in a while at the running back position. So it'll be interesting to see. Of course, you got to earn your spot. It's not like he's going to be able to walk in and just start. But it'll be interesting to see if the Patriots ever move to a more lead dog approach with the running game, and not kind of the committee that they've been using so far. Then Duke Dawson in the second round. Duke Dawson went higher than I expected, definitely. I think he's got good traits, and I would say third round I'd be fine with, but nobody really thought he was third round either. And so he went a lot higher than people expected, a little higher than I expected, but definitely a Patriot type player, a guy that might be undersized but feisty, hard-nosed, and loves to play the game. I think he has the ball skills and the timing to play out on the outside, but he did spend half his time as a nickel corner and show really good promise against the run. That's one thing that excites me is, you gotta have nickel guys that can have to play basketball, like I said, and stay in front of a guy, but you also gotta realize that they're the ones that's immediately in the alley, and so they gotta have the ability to bounce the ball out and, maintain the alley and come up and make plays in the run. And Duke's one of the rare guys that you saw do that consistently in the slot. So interesting to see, but I think he'll get a chance on the outside. Then you got a slew of, well, not going to say a slew, but a couple, including Duke Dawson, of Senior Bowl specials. Jawan Bentley out of Purdue, ended up playing a lot of snaps at the Senior Bowl, showed pretty well. I think he's a solid guy. And then you got Braxton Berrios, the one a lot of people want to talk about, because I guess the Patriots kind of made the slot, the undersized short slot thing popular. And everyone's like, oh, Braxton's another Amendola, another Edelman, another Wes Welker. So I'm serious, like the whole offseason, everyone's like, he's going to be a Patriot. And lo and behold, there he goes. And he also brings some return ability. So definitely a Patriot pick that a lot of people expected. So be interesting to see how early he gets on the field. And then the other thing that I would say in this draft was shocking, even though it's a 7th-round pick, Danny Etling from LSU, where LSU really did not have a good time passing the ball. A lot of people think the quarterback was a big reason for that. And then on top of that, you got guys like Kurt Benkert and other ones still on the board that the Patriots passed over. So obviously the Patriots got a reason they took him, so it should be interesting to see what he does. Then lastly, we got the New York Jets. They traded up before the draft to number 3. Everybody said they're going to take whatever quarterback is best on the board. And that's what they were able to do with Saquon going number 2. They had their pick from everybody except Baker. And the answer was Sam Darnold, who was the presumed number 1 pick. Sam's interesting, man. I think no matter where he went, I was interested to see kind of how it plays out. But New York's a really interesting place because there's really a void of like star power and not just like a quarterback, but like there's no big stars on that offense. I think, people say people like Darnold as a leader. I think he's a different cat. And I think people like his lead by example type, but I thought he would be best going to a place where there was an established guy on the offense that could kind of take the spotlight off him and let him just kind of do his job, because he's not the All-American quarterback. He's not the, guy that you draw up when you think of top quarterback prospects. So the New York Jets be interested. He's got a chance to prove me wrong and really, take this team in his own direction. But I'm wondering if he would have been better off, like I said, going to a place where, like even with Baker going to the Browns, Jarvis Landry has a lot of, praise and heat on his name. So it takes a little bit of the spotlight off. But in New York, it's all on Sam on that offense. So can't wait to see how that works out. Then third round, Nathan Shepard, for Hayes State. A guy that went higher than I thought, and really it's just his small school background. He didn't get to play any top competition, but he absolutely dominated his competition. As I say with small school prospects, the number one thing you got to do is dominate your competition, and he did that every single play. But I think he has good physical traits. He can get off the ball. I think he's a really good athlete for his size. So interested what they can do with him. I think he'll be a monster on stunts and blitzes, so I can't wait to see what he does. Fourth round, you get Chris Herndon out of Miami. More of a developmental project. Everybody and their mama said he should have went back to school, but Herndon comes out, and he's interesting. I only got to see a little bit of him. I think he's really raw. Fourth round, I guess that might be a little steep for me, but he's got some athleticism that gives him a little higher ceiling. And then, you got a couple guys in the sixth round. That's my thoughts on the AFC East draft. I'd like you to go to the comment section, tell me what you think about your team's draft. What do you think about some of the players? Who you excited to see? All those different things. Thumbs up, subscribe, share it around to get the convo started. And thank you for listening.